all CEOs, me included, we don't actually know what we're doing.
They're all sharks, so all you got to do, though, is know shark behavior.
I don't think we've ever talked about this before.
We can capture all of the wallet share.
First place you start is with the product.
That's just the first note.
This is the Capital Stack. Hey everybody, this is David Paul, the host of the Capital Stack podcast, where I talk to entrepreneurs, founders, operators, and investors about all things value creation in startups. Today, I am talking to a good friend and colleague of mine, Aaron Charlesworth of Georgia, who is the, was it your CMO now?
Yeah, I run marketing, product, and a little bit of everything at a place called DeskPass right now. Excellent, excellent. At
DeskPass, Aaron is a tried and true marketing operator located out of Atlanta, Georgia, who literally is biggest, marketing tech hub, probably the United States. And Aaron has earned his stripes there at several companies, including Onsolve, SpaceIQ, Vocalocity, and now at DeskPass. So, Aaron, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I don't know, nervous, looking forward to it. You never know what these discussions are going to go down, so you just try to sound intelligent.
It's going to get weird.
Yeah, well, I don't mind that. I'm good at weird, so.
Well, let's start off being weird. What's going on with the terrariums behind you?
So, probably about 6 years ago, my wife came home from visiting a friend and said, look what I got. And it was this poor bearded dragon who had been abused and very poorly taken care of that a friend of hers got. And his name was Loki. And so I got him, and he just wasn't going to make it, but I gave him the best 6 weeks of what remained of his life. And for some reason, I just fell in love with him. So I have more reptiles now. I've got 3 bearded dragons, 3 snakes, crested or a gargoyle gecko, and I think a blue-tongued skink that's on its way. And
a blue-tongued skank? Is that what you said?
Skink.
Oh, skink.
Skink.
Okay.
Yep. It's a little hard to describe. You'll have to look it up. But they're the best pets in the world. They actually are way more affectionate than people know, and everybody's terrified of snakes for all the wrong reasons. And so I love them. They're great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I was really obsessed about getting a fish tank. And went down a rabbit hole, a lot of YouTube videos, and then, the tank just got bigger and bigger in my head. And, and I was like, this is just unmanageable.
I tried fish once. I found them really hard. They were so finicky in a way. If your house got too cold or the water was off, all of a sudden you had dead fish. And I'm pretty good at lizards and reptiles. They're pretty hardy, so. As long as you don't mind a little bit of weird feeding here and there, like cockroaches and dead mice, which doesn't really bother me. But
no. So tell me a little bit, Aaron. Tell me about your marketing journey and how you became such a marketing stud.
Well, I'm not sure I would go that far, but my journey into marketing started all the way back. I got out of graduate school in 99, which, if you were kind of navigating through the .com world was kind of the worst possible time. But in a way, I got hugely lucky because I went to a small company that did sales enablement trading, and I was going to do market research, marketing work, and that kind of thing. And I think I was there all of 3 weeks. And then, as you probably would laugh, David, because you've probably seen it a million times, suddenly a huge company came in and bought the whole thing, and everybody's world was sort of upside down. But we got bought by Siebel Systems. And if you don't know who Siebel Systems are, they were the kind of the original founders of CRM. Mm-hmm. And But they were big iron CRM on premise. And so going through .com evolution, they sort of got eaten alive by Salesforce. Salesforce came along and was sort of that cloud pioneer of why doing business in the cloud and putting apps in the cloud was better, more cost effective, and really ate Siebel's lunch. And I would say all the way back then was sort of the genesis of it. It started with the need to pay attention to the market. You could have all the good marketing ideas that you wanted, and you could run good search, and you could do all these things. But if you didn't pay attention to what was happening around you, it didn't really matter how good the marketing was, you were going to get run over. And then as I sort of incorporated that into my process, what you found was it actually taught you the better ways to market too. So you could not only watch what the competition was doing from like a product and evolution standpoint, but as you were doing that, it was really easy to see the things where marketing was successful. I like to tell people that I think when you go to school to study marketing, there's this dream that it's all about great where's the beef commercials and stuff like that, and you're going to do amazing things. And I think I've demoralized a lot of young marketers over the years by saying the answers are often in the data and in the simplest places. You can have the greatest tagline in the world, but if you don't understand where people are looking for it, it's not going to do you any good. And so, went to a place called CDC Software where we really built that marketing engine from the ground up. And when I left Siebel, and just was able to start applying that kind of thinking, watch the market, study, look at what's available, look at what tactics are paying out, and pay really close attention to the return on investment from a marketing perspective. And what you found was if you watched the numbers and you watched the market and you looked at the competition, the answers kind of presented themselves to you. And where it all kind of, I would say, came to fruition was I went to a small company called Omnilink for a while and did product and marketing work there. And then went to a company called Vocalocity, which is where I met Wayne. I met Wayne at Omnilink. Wayne went to Vocalocity and invited me to come there and run marketing. And it was this very fast-paced, generating 3,000 leads a month, converting to 1,000 new customers a month. And it was sort of this culmination of all those: study the market, understand what's happening, watch every dollar. And it just sort of came together for us in this sort of beautiful moment where marketing and then this wonderful sales execution machine built by Kyle Johnson really just drove the whole thing forward. And it was like, I don't know, that was probably about 10 years after I got out of school, David. And it just was this sort of culmination of all those thoughts and happenings together. And it really worked. And that was kind of where the recipes were born, I guess. And then it was, in a lot of ways, rinse, repeat, and adjust in small ways. But once you found things that worked in certain markets, they sort of just take off on their own. There's not, I don't know. You have social media now. You had search 10, 20 years ago. There hasn't been a ton of massive revolutions in, the mediums for marketing messaging. So you just adjust and nudge here and there, and you find that those the same formulas tend to work over and over again.
Being a marketing operator and working with founders, do you feel like there's a proclivity to spend first and then look at the data versus looking at the data that's already available?
That's a great question. My experience with founders is that they want to spend and figure out why the heck the results didn't show up the second they spent. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. I think that there's this belief that I built something great. So many founders look at it and say, I built this amazing thing. How can people not love it? And if I just put the word out, the the billions are going to come rolling in, right? I'm going to get this massive return for myself and my investors. And so the biggest thing with founders is, I don't think in a lot of ways, if they go it on their own, they look at anything. They just say, I've built the greatest mousetrap that anyone ever saw. And if I just tell someone, everybody's going to buy it. And then they go spend that first 100, 200, 300 grand and fall flat on their face. And then they end up bringing in someone like me who says, okay, well, let's look at what traffic numbers look like. Let's look where people are congregating. What conferences do they go to? All these things. And then you build out a plan. And then you test the plan. And then you evaluate what are my best payoff channels. You invest more into those channels until you reach the capacity of the channel. And then you pick the next best channel up to the point at which you don't have money to spend anymore. But my experience.
It sounds so easy. Why is this such a difficult concept for founders?
Well,
or businesses
the reason
in
it's
general?
hard is because people are fickle,
Right?
right? The methods apply, but sometimes, David, like the decisions people make in the market, you've probably seen this more than I have. They just don't make sense, right? There are these times where someone genuinely has built a better mousetrap, and no one cares. Totally. It's like you put that information out there and you use the formula and people just go, I don't care. I'm just not going to pay for it right now. And I've read those stories. I've watched it happen to people.
I told you I was going to buy it when you came to me, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's the classic one, right? For a marketer is you get somebody to talk to you and they'll tell you all day long that their product or that you've built the greatest mousetrap in the world. But it's the same thing I said about when you raise money. Until the check is in the bank and is maybe baked for a week, don't count on the fact that you won, So they're just, sometimes people are highly, highly unpredictable no matter what the data will tell you. And I also would say, to answer the question, David, I do think there's a lack of patience, right? I got to know back at SpaceIQ a person named Nye Cannell. She ran the marketing team. She was actually the CMO at SpaceIQ. And I got to know her when she got there, when Archibus and CeraView acquired SpaceIQ. And just a brilliant young marketer, does amazing work. But you would find that the recipe that was invented, and she and I talked about this all the time, it doesn't just turn on overnight. People always forget that if you want quality search rankings with Google from an SEO perspective, it can take months. And you have to lay the foundations. You have to have good content. You have to have a good experience on the website. Nothing worse than I drove traffic, people showed up, and my website stunk and they couldn't find what they needed. So I guess you can describe the model easily, but the model still has a lot of parts. And if you don't put the parts in place in the right way, you'll have these leakage points and the return won't be what you expect. And then that makes your data look bad, right? Oh, this channel isn't very good after all, so let's give up on it type thing. But I would say application of the recipe and patience is the true recipe for success.
Yeah. So if we were to say, look at the recipe, and because knowing that the recipe, you need to have patience with the recipe because you need to understand methodically like that the ingredients in the recipe are working or not working. So where do you layer like importance with resources with an early stage company, let's say that's building a marketing plan from zero?
It's a great question. I feel like I'm going to keep saying that over and over again. Do people that do these say that all the time, David? Is great question, great question.
Well, I ask great questions.
You've never asked a bad one, have you?
Never.
Right? Yeah.
I say stupid shit, but I ask good questions.
I always looked at it as it kind of had three streams in my mind. One was you always have to worry about building the technology. I always advocated hire on staff a really good, solid marketing operations person, somebody that can help you get your marketing automation tools, CRM, all those types of things set up correctly from the beginning, or you won't get the data you're looking for. You won't be able to capture information. So that was sort of the first work stream. The second was you had to think a lot about content. So if you don't have something meaningful to say, even if you have the greatest widget, again, people don't care. They are not going to come just because you believe that they should. And so then you got to build a content engine. And there's a lot of interesting economical ways to do that. I think sometimes people worry that that's really hard to write enough material, and it's something you can actually outsource in a really simple way. And then you have to build the program piece. And the programs are usually the things that you would think of as the traditional marketing tactics, like search, and you might do email marketing. When we were back at Vocalocity, it was probably the last place that I did this, but we actually made direct mail pay in a profitable way. Mm-hmm. So you have to put all three of those into flight at the same time, or you'll come out the back end with results, and if you didn't set up the technology right, you won't have captured data well. So then you won't be able to refine the programs. And then if you don't have that data on the programs, and you could A/B test against content to see which is better, then you'll have that flaw in the model. So there is no one place. If I was going into a place that had zero marketing today, those are the three work streams I would start on. And I would generally put the marketing operations as like a full-time employee. You would try to hire some type of marketing programs resource as a full-time. And then the content you can often source across your organization. You don't necessarily have to have a content writer, content strategist right out of the gate. I'm trivializing certain things, like you still have to have graphics and brand and website and all those things. But those are typically things early on that I would look out to sort of the expert market on from a contractor basis. You're generally not going to hire a graphic designer on staff right away, unless you have some type of graphics heavy product needs and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Thinking about all this just makes me realize that how difficult a discipline marketing is, because there's just so many different facets and so many different disciplines that a person needs to know to make it work. And when you're under-resourced, it becomes very, very challenging. So would you agree or disagree?
Well, I would hugely agree, but the problem it creates, I hate that phrase, tip of the spear. It's more like top of the funnel, right? The hard thing for every startup is how to allocate resources to build momentum over time, I think. So a lot of times you write the plan, and again, like David, this is probably stuff you've seen even more than I have. You see these the proposals, and everybody says, I'm going to hire 50 salespeople, and I'm going to, get 28 engineers and all these things. But at the end of the day, if you don't do the marketing piece first and really focus there and get that right up front, then you're going to have 58 salespeople just sitting going, what should I do? And then immediately you fall back to, well, let's have them start making cold calls. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so then you say, okay, well, I need a list. So what's the first thing they do? Well, let's go ask marketing for a list, because they know the best people to call.
Right. Where's the list?
Okay. So then the marketing team of one shows up and says, well, here's a spreadsheet. Why don't you start calling them? And then what do they say? Well, what should I say? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Well, here's scripting. Here's key points. Okay. Do you have any follow-up material I can send them? And then you say, okay, well, here's emails and here's white papers. Well, suddenly, when you haven't invested at the true top of the funnel, you started by investing in the middle. Then you took what resources you did have to try to fill the funnel, and you went down to this low return tactic, right? Cold calling is good, but it's brutally hard. It's time intensive.
It's expensive.
It's expensive. People don't answer the phone, and there are certain industries where you can make it work, but it shouldn't be the first tactic you go to. But to your question about founders, I think it's the first one they think about a lot of the time. And it goes back to that thing of, if you just tell them, if they just hear that I've got a better mousetrap, then all will be okay. And so I think that's kind of its own trap is everybody thinks if I have a salesperson, we're all going to get rich. And if you don't build the top of the funnel first, it's just going to fall apart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really just need to make sure, especially when you're in a momentum-based business, is like just fill it up. The sales cycle is going to take the sales cycle, right? As long as you're continually worried about top of the funnel in the marketable database, there should be some movement going through the engine.
Oh, it's like I always said to people, I've never been in a company. Vocalocity got bought by Vonage, and I would say Vonage maybe is the exception to this. But, I was never big on spending a ton of money on sort of brand development because I always felt like you couldn't spend enough, right? Like I remember when we got bought by Vonage, they had this. I met the CMO there, and she was telling me that Vonage had spent $2 billion since the start of the company on brand development. And then people then got to know the woo woo woo, right? So, but that cost $2 billion. And here I am in marketing, I think in our heyday at Vocalocity, we were spending $1 million a month on Google. And that was unheard of in my world. That's $12 million a year. And here she's talking about a brand budget of $2 billion. But what I always found was if you got that flywheel going, you built that sort of viral brand marketing, that referral brand marketing. You didn't have Super Bowl ads and you didn't have fancy jingles or where's the beef, but you had enough momentum where you could go to, you could start to deploy other highly cost-effective marketing tactics like referral programs. Right. In certain industries, people love to send you their friends and family for $50. Right. Well, in the world of Google, the paid search ad that actually turns into deals could cost you $5,000-$6,000 per deal. And when you call somebody up and say, hey, your friend Tim got $50 for giving you, you'd be shocked how often people sign up. So, and I do think things like those referral programs can work across all kinds of industries.
Got it. And how do you judge the importance for early stage companies on market positioning of product?
Are you asking, David, sort of like the product market fit question?
I'm asking how do you position your company into in reference to the competitors within the market and how you're different?
Yeah, you ask your customers and you ask the market. You don't ever try to figure it out yourself because you'll get it wrong 9 out of 10 times.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, the number of times that somebody just, nails it right out of the gate by saying, we're this and we're going to be that and everybody's going to want some, very low. What I always found is investing in that competitive intelligence, market awareness, customer feedback early on always pay dividends, because if you can people will tell you they're great or you're great. They'll always, because they're, most people don't want
it's happy years, right? I mean, founders, all they want to hear is that bias that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, and no matter what you think of, the world today, most people don't want to get on the phone and be a jerk to you. They don't want to get on the phone and say, David, your Marvel comic stuff looks really dumb behind you. They don't want to be that way. And so if you can take their willingness to talk and really get down to the root of what do they need and why did they talk to you in the first place, they're going to tell you all the answers. Because if you, think about, like when I was at Onsolve, you think about selling a emergency mass notification system. The need in one county is not significantly different than the need in the other county. or if it's a Fortune 100 company that's looking to sell or to put in place an employee notification solution, the needs at one are not hugely different than the needs at the other. So you can guess and hope you get it right, or you can take a beat and go and talk to the people that are going to buy it from you. And generally you can tease out that information. So that's probably the biggest thing that helps you focus positioning is competitive intelligence program, customer feedback, market awareness. NPS can be a great thing for it. You can do so many tools today that you can use for your own surveying. The data, it's limitless. You just got to take the time to do it. And I don't know. I think one of the flaws is it goes back to that I just know better. I have a friend of mine today, and I'm not going to mention the company. He's head of marketing, and his biggest frustration is that they have a good product, but the head of the company, the inventor of the product, is so steadfast on, but this was my dream. This is what it was, that as they're going out and listening to the market, they're not adjusting. And now they're laying off people and they're not winning deals. And if they would just have flexibility in that, I think all those answers are available. You just got to pay attention to it. That's how I would solve the positioning.
Is there a rule of thumb or a guide on how to ask like discovery questions that aren't biased?
I mean, you can go and Google a million of them. The answer I'm going to give you for that is not a great one for startups, but wherever possible, pay people that are experts in doing that interview process. You know, there are services like I've used one in the past called Primary Intelligence that was truly exceptional, and they give you this amazing readout. And there really is. There's a skill to knowing what question to ask next. Because if you're asking someone about your product, I think there's this natural tendency to ask them what they like and then ask them what's better and better and better. And that's not really what you want to know. You want to know all about them and what's going wrong in their world. And so I think there's this very special skill of being able to do that. You know, another source of good information like that doesn't necessarily cost you an incremental dollar is really great salespeople are exceptional at that, right? A really great salesperson. I've never sold a thing in my life. I never should, because I'd give it to you for free because you would smile if I do. But really great salespeople who love the art of that deal and the negotiation, they have this way of teasing that out of you, right? Right. Really great salespeople will somehow learn everything they need to know for you to buy from them, and you didn't even know you did it, right? So I think if you build that quality relationship with your sales team and you can identify those sort of star players on the sales team, I think you can get it. I think the other piece of advice I would give is tools like Wingman, call recording, right? So record every sales call that ever happens. You know, there's a million plugins, there's a million tools to do it. Record every one of them, because if you take the time, I used to do this when I was running product marketing at SpaceIQ. Everybody was required to listen to 30 minutes of recorded sales calls a day. It's the best thing I ever did there, because this is a, you know, product marketing pre-selling team who has to go out and talk to people. Best source of information is listening to what they said in other conversations. So I would definitely invest in those tools. So you don't have to spend a fortune. And sometimes you find, you know, your sales leader's probably going to implement the call recording solution anyway. If they're not, as a marketer, you might want to, we're going to have to wonder how your success is going to go. I don't know how any sales leader could survive without it. But, you know, look at those tools, look at those kind of things. And I do think that there's still value in that old fashioned road trip, David. You know, that customer, I'm going to go out and meet with 25 customers in 25 different cities. it's expensive. It takes time. But if you have good, dedicated, loyal customers that are willing to let you talk to different members of the team, especially if it's a complex solution, I think that's where all the answers lie.
What are the best tools that, for an early stage company on a budget, and I would say tools and follows, like who's like the probably, everyone talks about Jason Lemkin. I don't know if he's good or bad. I'm not an operator, so I don't follow him, right? I'm an investor, but like who really is tried and tested that you feel is just really giving great advice, and what tools do you think in market are great for intelligence and discovery?
The funny thing is, I'm going to totally let you down on this one, because I'm going to admit something that I can answer the tool. The tool is quality marketing automation system, and then the call recording things like Wingman. Primary intelligence is another good one. Another one that I think anybody should think about, especially if you run a website, is things like LogRocket, Hotjar, stuff like that, Full Story. When I'm at DeskPass today, one of the best things that I do is I watch the click paths of people going through our tool trying to make meeting room and desk reservations. And you can literally just sit there and you can watch, you can find the holes in your application because you'll watch them, they hit it. And then suddenly the session ends. So anything that lets you, watch from behind the scenes what they're doing, I think is an exceptional investment. On the other one, I'm going to totally let you down though, David, because if I had to tell you any one thing that is probably I don't know if it's a weakness or not. I've just never done it. I don't read business books. I don't study blogs. I don't follow the popular press of this is the marketing thing of the day. That might
serve you because you're doing as opposed to absorbing content that might just be putting you in a circle.
Yeah, I never thought of it that much. I just, I had a job. I had a lot of problems to solve in these small companies. You invest in startups that, there's a billion problems to solve. It's how I found my own career evolving so much out of just marketing. If you're smart and you can learn, somebody says, hey, can you fix this issue? I remember when I first met Wayne Kellum, he hired me at Omnilink, and we had got this opportunity with the Alzheimer's Association. And we were going to build this GPS cellular tracking solution to help people with Alzheimer's. And I was sitting in the executive meeting one day, and we were talking about this great deal we just signed. And it was really easy to sit there and realize this project wasn't making progress. And I went to Wayne afterwards. I said, Wayne, I'm just the marketing guy, but I think if someone doesn't fix that thing and get it ready, we're going to have a big problem. So I think I can fix that and go do it. And he said, Aaron, go make it happen. And I got to build this amazing product that I wasn't a product management person, but you get in there and you figure it out. And we built a great product that helped people. I remember Wayne was on ABC Nightly News with Charlie Gibson. I watched it with my kids. My kids were like, you built that, Dad? You just jump in and you solve problems. And, if I was going to learn anything or study material, it wouldn't be someone's book. It would be how to AdWords really work. I don't need market gurus to tell me that. I just got to go on and watch some YouTube stuff. Like get in there and do the work, and you will learn what works and what doesn't. With any luck, you work for people in a team that are okay with the things that don't. And I've mentioned him a couple times. Wayne, I've had the unbelievable honor of working with him a couple different places. Wayne never liked failure, but understood that it was part of the process, right? And that's how you learn. That's how you figure out the next best thing. And so I can't give you tools. My answer, if people say, what things should I read? You look at my bookshelf. I read what I enjoy, because that helps me be more focused when it comes time to do the hard work.
And what are you reading back there?
Oh, man. I have books and books. I've got 5 of these size bookshelves in my room, in this room alone. I read a lot of science fiction. I read fantasy. There's some great young adult authors out there. I love some of my favorite books are what you would consider modern comedy in a way. Lesser known people like Christopher Moore, probably my favorite author. But I will read anything. I once told somebody that my analytical side made me sit down one day and calculate how many hours I thought I had left on Earth, and I had to calculate the number of books I figured I could read, and it was like 6,200 before my guess was I was going to die at 85, and I never wanted to read a book that I didn't enjoy.
That's a really good kind of anecdote, because there's so many books I read that I don't like.
Well, what always made me sad, because I love books so much, David, is it's such a limited thing. It's how you watch your kids grow up, and that makes time feel fleeting. Books do that to me, because I'm like, oh man, I just don't have 5 more minutes. I don't have 5 more minutes. And I don't know. I just have always found that the more things that I do like that, the more creative I am. I'm a serial hobbyist. I've tried more hobbies than you can shake a stick at, because I think it helps you think creatively, try different things. It makes it, you have a recipe, but you also know that the recipe has to change. I think it served me well.
Since you like fantasy, did you see the new Dungeons and Dragons movie?
My son did. Absolutely loved it.
It's amazing.
I haven't seen it yet. My wife, Allie, and I are going to go. But see, I'm old. Like I'm like an original Dungeons and Dragons kid. I remember the original red boxes. Like this is, it's funny how you reach that moment in time where you're like, the modern movie is nostalgia to me, But no, I haven't seen it. My son did. He absolutely loved it. But it's funny how it's made a comeback, though. My son's 18, and they have a whole crowd that they play D&D with online now. It's just
I think you could actually like Chat GPT Dungeon Master now. Like it's pretty.
Oh, I hadn't seen that one. I mean, if you think about it, it's perfect, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it really is perfect.
Sense.
It's a perfect product for that.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see all the ones that come out. That the ways people are going to make money off that are just beginning to be thought of, and they're going to rise and fall so fast.
Totally.
Yeah.
We're early in the hype cycle for that, but I'm very bullish on the fact of the deflationary aspects of all of those kind of generative technologies.
Do you think anyone's doing it well so far?
I'm using Jasper for blog writing. Do you know that one?
I don't. I have messed around with a few of like the content creation tools. A lot of the self-service stuff that you do really it can give you a fine start. Still requires a little polishing.
I think it's great because it prevents you from like looking at the blank screen for a long time, and you can get things done quicker. It can take what you write and kind of make it much more readable, right? As opposed to just like a spell check and grammar function. It can just say, okay, this really just doesn't flow right, and it can actually change it. And I think that's really great, because I've got a lot to say. I mean, whether it's valuable or not is, it's
I don't know. If you enjoy saying it, doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, but I think it's making my content better. I mean, I wrote just a piece on the nursing shortage issue and the technologies that are attacking that. And the Wall Street Journal called me and they want to talk about it. And I didn't dare say that the AI wrote most of it, but
they just got you started. They nudged you.
They nudged me started. Exactly.
Yeah. We've had some really fascinating one. I wonder if I think you'll start to see a lot of this in the companies that you're involved with. Cause I run the product organization here. I say that it's all of me, but I guess I'm in charge of myself sometimes. But I do, when you're sort of product of person of one, you do get very, very involved in the engineering side. And I'm very lucky at DeskPass to have a great group of engineers that include me. But we had an amazing discussion around the ChatGPT's ability to write effective code.
Yeah, I hear it's exceptional.
Oh, to the point where, and I was really excited to watch our engineers do this. You read a lot of stories right now of people terrified it's going to take my job, it's going to take my seat. I'm very encouraged by how they look at it as it's just going to make my seat even more effective, because it doesn't produce things that are straight off the page usable, but it was interesting to watch it give them ideas on ways to solve problems. And I'm a big believer that technology, you don't slow it down. You can be scared of it. You can be sad about it, whatever. But once it leaves the gate, it's going.
No, it's too late, right?
Yeah,
like you can't hold this back. We have to run at it, especially like China's working on it now too. So we definitely need to like get in front of it.
Yeah. I think it's exciting though. I think there's some challenges. I do a lot of art and creative stuff. There's some challenges on that side of the equation, great artists, because it's taking that compendium of everything that came before to create something next. Like use the comics. If you said, go draw me a great comic, it's going to use all those things that have been drawn before to draw the next thing. And so I think there's some interesting, intellectual property, creative property things that'll come up, but it's like everything else. People will navigate it. Businesses are going to find great ways to use it. Someone's going to find a way to use it badly and write even worse spam emails than they do today. So.
I think there's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, David.
So with that, I will end. And if you like this episode, please share, tell a friend. We're on all major platforms, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to the Capital Stack Podcast. Make sure to share this with someone you know that can benefit from this content. Remember to support this show by rating, reviewing, and subscribing. David Paul is the founder and general partner at DWP Capital. All opinions expressed by David and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of DWP Capital. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for decisions. David and guests may maintain positions in the securities discussed on this podcast.